Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lock Shop. Sorry, a couple of minutes late. We had to shoot something quickly for some other video that we're working on. Trev and I had to bang that out, and we only had a small little window to do it, so a couple minutes behind. But with that being said, very exciting times for the Lock Shop. I think that's safe to say. Let's bring in Huss. Huss, good to see you once again, my friend. How are you doing?
Yeah, long time no chat. Pulling the curtain back for you Lock Shoppers. We just had a call with Patty and Jake and Andrew and our friends at Coolbet about next week in Boston. And I'll tell you what, Dusty, I was already so amped after watching these first two games, getting ready for tomorrow night, Canada, USA. And to think that we're going to be at the second half of the tournament doing our shows from Boston at the Four Nations. I mean, the vibes are high in the Lock Shop today. Let's just say that.
It's an exciting time for sure. We're not just going to Boston and disappearing. Like Nielsen show, I'll be doing the show there. Lock Shop will obviously be together from Boston on Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then obviously WST will be happening. We'll have a bunch of other content that we're doing. Some VIPs coming along from Coolbet. It's going to, if we get a Canada-US final next Thursday night in Boston, buddy, I mean, potentially could be one of like the coolest sports fan moments of my life. Like, I don't get too many events as a fan as much as I used to. And back when the day I couldn't afford or got invited to any of the big events. So I mean, next Thursday could set up to be a pretty magical evening, buddy.
No, we are blessed to have a great partner like Coolbet that's allowed us to do so many cool things already. And now to have the both of us get together with the fellas down there in Beantown with some friends. That the Canada-Finland game is going to be wild. That's the first game we're going to, and we will be with a large Finnish contingent with our friends at Coolbet. So it's going to be amazing. This tournament has already delivered in the first two games. I mean, tomorrow night, man, is going to be... I was just looking at the Montreal Gazette. Someone's got some prime center ice tickets on a resale site for like $10K a pop.
Seriously? Wow.
Yeah. Now, I mean, most of the other tickets, I mean, I think the get-in price is in and around $1,000. But make no mistake about it, and we kind of talked about this yesterday. I mean, there were a bunch of naysayers going into this tournament that I never understood it. No one's saying that now after seeing these first two games. And that game tomorrow night, Canada versus the US in Montreal, I already know it is going to be as electric as anything we've seen in this sport in a very, very long time. And fingers crossed, it's the first of two matchups between those teams. And we'll be there in the TD Garden in Boston on Thursday night, seeing them go at it again for the cup.
You mentioned the naysayers, and it's funny because like that game Canada-Sweden was so good that the naysayers who maybe in other situations would be trying to die on that hill were just straight up being like, I was wrong. I'm in. Like, I was like, nobody's being like, well, let's see how it plays out. Like, it was just like, okay. Like I was mistaken. It's going to be amazing.
I yesterday on WST, I went off on that at the start, and I'm like, I said, and all you dummies who came into this show and told us that it was just going to be like the All-Star game or whatever. I hope you give your head a check. And one of the guys in the chat goes, Huss just called me a dummy, and it was fully warranted. I can't believe I didn't think that. So, anyways, it was all in fun, but. Yeah, like I think if you just had to realize that there is so much pride involved in this. I mean, especially from the Canada-US sides, but make no mistake about it, the Finns and the Swedes are there to win and compete and play as well. So we're, it's like for hockey fans, this is going to be a really, really fun week. Tomorrow night, the Canada-USA game, I can't imagine what the atmosphere in that building is going to be like.
Oh, man.
And the great thing about having it in Montreal, Dusty, is that I think the Montreal fans and the crowd and the production, everything they've done is going to raise the bar so much that, even if maybe there wasn't as much of a buzz south of the border for this, by the time we get to Boston and those games on Monday, and especially the Thursday game, assuming that it is the final, I'm with you. I mean, I think it is going to be one of the coolest events we'll maybe ever be able to be a part of. And yeah, I know it's not for an Olympic gold medal or whatever, but I mean, this is a decade in the making with the best players in the world that haven't been able to have this opportunity to represent their country. And the short nature of the tournament makes these games like tomorrow night and obviously next Thursday, I mean, it's like a best of 7 series all tied up into one game. So cannot wait to get things going. And so far through the tournament, we've had 2 good games. I mean, the one last night, to me, it entirely flipped in the final 5 seconds of the second period. There's offensive face-off for USA.
Yep.
Austin Matthews draws the penalty with 2 seconds left, like right off the face-off, and whatever, you can debate if it was a penalty or not, or if you took a dive,
I didn't even realize it was a penalty right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the because I mean it only took 3 seconds, because I think it was 5.9 seconds when they took the face-off, and then there was a penalty and there's 2 seconds left. And the bottom line is they came out, they were ready, the fresh ice, power play on the ice, scored right away, and then another one 15 seconds later, and that was pretty much it for the Finns. But I'll give the Finns credit. I mean, with that depleted blue line and probably not as much talent, certainly not as much talent top to bottom on that roster, they hung in there and they played hard. And every one of these games, I think, are going to be like that, even if they get away a little bit on one of the 2 teams.
I can't wait. It's going to be very exciting. We'll get to some Team Canada stuff. It looks like UC Saros will be watching against Sweden as Finland will look to try to keep their hopes alive. Jake pointing out that there's a 25% boost for the Canada-US game if you want it. So when you go to make your wager for Canada-US on Saturday, they are giving you a 25% boost on that play, which is massive, Huss. And that's going to be, with the lack of, unless people really want to bet on the NBA All-Star festivities, I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of action on that Canada-US game. So you might as well take the 25% boost that Coolbet's going to offer up for you.
Well, and just a reminder to everybody, when the NHL is normally going on, every weekend, you've got the option to bang out a 25% win boost for your favorite bet in the National Hockey League. And that is the no-brainer of all time to make sure to take advantage of that. But the fact that they have allowed all of us to get that 25% boost on the Canada-USA game, pretty damn good. And that game, by the way, it just is exactly the way you'd want it, man. A straight up pick 'em.
Yeah.
I mean, Canada minus 108, USA minus 109. Pick your team, place your bets, and may the best team win. This is so great.
So with the Tkachuk brothers, I mean, I guess we have to start there as far as this Canada-USA game goes. And I know we don't have confirmation on a Canadian goaltender yet. I think I saw this morning, just a few moments ago, that Cooper said he wants to chat with his goaltenders before announcing anything. So I'm not too sure if we read into that one way or the other. Would you run it back with Bennington, or will you go to Aiden Hill for the second game, Huss?
We talked a lot about this yesterday, but I am of the opinion, I think, and again, I'm here for the arguments on both sides. I think it's a tough decision, and I don't think there's a clear right or wrong. If I'm John Cooper, though, I think I go with Hill. And the reason for that, and listen, Binnington stepped up when he needed it in overtime. And I think
a couple big saves
for him moving forward. The way I look at it, though, is in this game, if you play Hill and he plays great and is better, awesome. You've had maybe an uptick in goaltending, and that puts you in really good shape moving forward, and, Hill can run. If Hill doesn't have a good game and you don't win against the United States, you then go to Boston for the game against Finland. You go back to Binnington, presumably. I mean, you have to win if you want to be in that final. And if you win, then you're in a situation where even though you lost to the United States in the first game, you're going at them with a goalie that's 2-0 in the tournament and hasn't yet played them. So I mean, I can see it on both sides. Like, I mean, if Cooper just said, you know what, the way he stepped up with the game on the line, he's got our confidence, we're going to play him. I mean, I'm not going to be out of my mind about that or anything like that, but I think it's a tough decision, but I think I might give Hill the opportunity to go against the States just for the options that'll give John Cooper with both of those guys in the final game and then presumably the final, assuming Canada makes it there.
Yeah, from a strategic standpoint, I think I like the way that you laid it out going to Hill, and then if it does work, then great. If it doesn't, then you can Bennington another game and then run with him into the final. And it's funny because if he didn't make a couple big saves in overtime, the entire nation would be saying there's no way Bennington should start against the U.S. after the regulation. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So to me, I don't think you just give the guy the net again because of a couple of saves in overtime when his body of work prior to that was not going to get him another start. So I'd go to Hill, and if Hill plays really well and gets you the dub, then you just roll him the rest of the way, I guess. And if he doesn't, then you go back to Bennington, who, as you mentioned, is 1-0, probably going to be 2-0 after the game against Finland, and then rolls in, and U.S. hasn't played against him yet in the tournament. It's not bad there. 780-218-9999 if you want to chime in. 780-218-9999. How do you think Canada goes up against the Tkachuk brothers, buddy? That line was pretty damn good when they finally put them together in the third period last night. Dude,
those guys... we just spent about an hour after the game talking about those two. Like, they are such unicorns in today's game.
Yes.
Like, because on top of it all, like, they are incredible players. I mean, like, the ability to score, set plays up, but they just have an edge to them that 99% of, elite players don't have. And it's hilarious that they're brothers. And it's funny that they didn't play them together right off the bat, but it didn't take Mike Sullivan very long to put those two guys together. And once they did, I mean, the work speaks for themselves. I mean, we're going to get Sam Bennett's going to be back in the lineup. And I half jokingly said earlier on that when they were making the team, I want Sam Bennett to be on the team because he's the one guy that might be able to go at it with Matthew Tkachuk. And I would love some Panther on Panther violence.
That would be great.
Like, let those guys beat the living crap out of each other in this game. Would be awesome. Now, he's going to be playing in a fourth line role. I don't know how much he will see of those guys, but the one thing that the U.S. has that Canada doesn't is Brady and Matthew Tkachuk, who in games like this that are intense, that there is physicality. We saw last night just how impactful those guys can be. And, but I do think that their play will actually raise the temperature of the game, but also what Canada brings to the table. And I think you'll see a lot of guys that don't normally get as dirty, if you will, during a 60-minute game in the regular season or even in the playoffs. Get ready to get into the mud with these guys on tomorrow night.
I see Matthew Tkachuk popping up in the nasty chat. Says, I told you to bet on me. 3 points for me on Saturday. Well, I was running over this. We had Chris Johnston on this morning on the Nielsen show for Pro-Am Sports. We had Chris on. We're talking. And, this is a pretty big game, obviously, in a short tournament like this against the U.S. Because if the U.S. wins in regulation, Huss, they could technically mail it in against Sweden, allow Sweden to win that hockey game, and Canada won't get into the final, no matter what happens. So if Sweden beats Finland, obviously, right? Because Canada got the 2 points for the win in overtime. If Sweden beats Finland, and then the U.S. is just like, well, we've already got 6 points. We got our 2 wins. We're in the final. If Sweden beats us, they pass Canada in points because we beat Canada. Then Canada's out. So I would not want to leave it in that type of situation for that game. So not that this game wasn't already massively important, but now because of that overtime win, there's this underlying X factor on Monday that you got to go out and get it done on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's assuming that Sweden wins their game tomorrow. Against the Finns. They are the favorite. We'll get to that line in just a minute. Yeah, Sweden -200, Finland +170. The thing is, I can't imagine that happening. Like, Mike Sullivan's not going to call the dogs off to avoid, like, let's face it. I think the U.S. wants to see Canada twice. Like, Canada wants to see the U.S. twice. The NHL, the NHLPA want those guys to be in those games. So I would be stunned if all of a sudden, you know what, we're going to put our third string goalie in and we're going to play some other
Give
guys.
Give him a start. It's nice to get somebody, everybody gets involved in the tournament, that type of thing. Yeah.
No, but listen, Canada doesn't have to worry about that if they can go out there and win tomorrow night. And this game tomorrow, like, I don't know what your evaluation of things are, but just after seeing this one game, like, and by the way, the futures for this at Coolbet have really changed. We talked about how Canada dropped to like plus 140 at the beginning of the tournament to win, and the States was plus 175. Well, now that these games have been played, the U.S. is the favorite right now at plus 110. Canada, you can get at plus 145 to win. The Swedes are 6-1, and then Finland 25-1 after their loss last night. So I think we're going to see these two teams play twice, but tomorrow's game, a huge opportunity for Canada. They'll have the home crowd. It'll be very different tomorrow night than I think it'll be Thursday if you, assuming that they play twice. But the depth of the U.S. from 1 to 12 on their forward group is the best in the tournament. And I look and listen, Sid had his night. It was Sidney Crosby night against Sweden. To me, for Canada to win this tournament, they need Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon to step up and be the best players in the world on the ice. Because I think once you get past that super elite top of the Canadian lineup, I think the U.S. is bringing more to the table, and they certainly have the advantage in net. So, listen, it's this is the opportunity. As I said, Sid started it off. I think the torch gets passed, and we see 29 and 97. Remind everyone that they are the two alphas in the National Hockey League right now.
Even if McKinnon refuses to pass to McDavid in overtime, Huss?
Did you get a lot of?
Buddy.
It was, we were having some jokes at the Nasty's expense yesterday on the show.
Man, it was
McKinnon is a puck hog.
Edmonton was like my Twitter feed after I did my 3 quick thoughts on that game, like I do for most Oilers games. I would say, and I didn't have any crazy takes in my thoughts, but still like 80% of what I saw on Twitter after was Edmonton fans being like, I can't believe that McKinnon is this much of a puck hog when he's got McDavid out there too. I was like, oh my God, they won. It's okay. Like, it was classic. Absolutely classic.
3-on-3 is so weird. And having it like in this format and tournament with this level of player, like the thing with McKinnon, and he gets going at that high rate of speed.
Man.
And, usually the best bet is just take it to the net. And he had like those 3 chances. Now, I was talking to Yaremchuk about this yesterday, and I kind of agree. Like, McDavid didn't particularly play that so well that there was an obvious pass to, and the defenseman sort of took him and challenged, McKinnon to shoot. And then finally we got to see Sidney Crosby on the ice, who very deftly and quietly left a bunch of big open space and hit Mitch Marner on the run. And the next thing, the game was over. But if Canada had lost that game after those 3 rushes by Nate McKinnon, I'm sure those voices would be a little bit louder. But hey, we need McDavid and McKinnon to both take over these games the next little bit. And I think the rest of the team will follow that.
Would you leave Marner with McDavid?
I mean, maybe to start off, but I would be more than willing to change it up.
A little bit of a shorter leash on her?
If it doesn't. I mean, the way things are looking, there are some line changes actually from practice there.
I didn't see that. Who had that?
They're staying with Marner, Reinhart, and McDavid.
Okay.
They're with Stone, Crosby, and McKinnon. But the third line is now the Tampa guys. So it's going to be Hagel and Cirelli with Point.
He went to those guys in the third.
Yeah. And then Sam Bennett's coming in for Konechny. and we're going to see Bennett in the middle of Jarvis and Marchand. Now, I heard a good, we talking about who plays well with McDavid. What does McDavid need? Like that Zach Hyman guy that goes in, that wins the puck battles, that gets the puck. To be honest, the player that I think fits that the most on the Canadian roster is maybe Seth Jarvis. Like for a guy that, is just an absolute buzzsaw that's going to go out, like he will do those things, win those battles, has good speed, maybe a little bit more than Marner. But the bottom line is, I mean, the McDavid line has to be productive. So if things aren't going well early on, I think you will see a little bit of a change. I mean, maybe you bring Braden Point up there. I mean,
that
really
was the first name
player
that I kind of thought pre-tournament who might play with him in that spot.
And I mean, listen, Marchand is a little older, but he's a big game player. I could see him being an option as well. I don't think they're going to touch that Crosby, McKinnon, Stone line. And I do think that John Cooper likes the comfort of his 3 Tampa guys together on that line. So if anything, I mean, and normally you wouldn't see this in a National Hockey League game, but you could have a guy flip from the first line to the fourth line just because of the talent that's there. But to me, this is all about getting the most out of those top 2 lines and hopefully having your third and fourth lines able to kind of play the U.S. even when they get going tomorrow night.
This might be the absolute play-by-play nerd in me, but I'm listening when they united the 3 Tampa guys. Cuthbert's calling the game, and he's like, Cooper, put these 3 guys together, and then he's like, trying to catch lightning in a bottle, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, because it's just to tie in with the Tampa guys and lightning in a bottle. I was just, I DM'd him immediately. I was like, dude, lightning in a bottle line when those 3 guys were together was absolutely incredible. And he messaged, I said, like, I love Cuthbert. He's like a hero. And he messaged me back after the game. It was just hard not to call good games in this situation. I was just like, yeah, this is bloody amazing. So I don't know if other people got as excited about the lightning in a bottle line than I did, but I was full blown Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV meme when he's just like lightning in a bottle. I was just like, damn it. He's the best. I just love that guy. I love listening to him.
He's raised his level of play. You know what? I was talking about this yesterday. I mean, you were away. I didn't have the chance to talk to you. Oh, by the way, how about that second place finish in the poker tournament, Dusty?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We didn't get a chance to do that. Yeah, buddy. I never. So what I mean, I was kind of MIA the afternoons for the last few weeks or for the last few days. What did you go out on?
Well, I mean, we played heads up for about an hour.
No way.
Yeah, it was.
What time did this go till then?
It basically, we were down to 2 after 3. I think maybe the first hand after the third break, the third guy went out.
Oh wow! So that third hour, like before that took out a lot of people then. Yeah, because I went out right before second break, and I think I finished 32nd or something. So a bloodbath in that third hour.
Yeah, well, I mean, the blinds get a lot higher. But yeah, it went, I got and Randy D, of course, great WSTer, very good poker player. He's had 2 nice finishes, a win and a second place now. But he is known in the lock shop poker circuit as Randy River. And Randy River, early on in the heads up, he rivered a flush on me. I was kind of surprised looking back that he stayed in the hand, but he did, and he won. And it basically went from I had about two times his chips to reversing that. And then he was really good with just not putting it in if it wasn't in a spot. But we went back and forth. And then I think at the end, I mean, it was like King Jack versus Ace 7 or something like that. But again, I was down to probably 140,000 chips and he was probably at 490 or something like that. So at that point I needed to double up. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And we'll do it again. Maybe we're going to look at potentially a Sunday date for some time in March. Yeah. So we'll keep people in tune on that. But the other thing that I was just thinking that we didn't really get to chat the last couple days was just the first game, the Canada-Sweden. Like I haven't talked to you since then, and from a production standpoint, Listen, we've all got critiques about Sportsnet, with some of the things that they do. I mean, the panel that they put together, I would have thought this would be a great opportunity to maybe get a couple of new faces in. We're talking about 4 games. You got Solani there and, some of these other guys that have been in this before, other than, no disrespect to Jen Botterill and Kelly Rudy. But the opening of that between the production that they put on the National Hockey League and the Montreal people was as good as anything I've seen before, like with the lights behind, those cinematic cameras on like Crosby with Lemieux behind. I mean, that was
a great shot. That was a terrific shot.
Absolute magic.
Yeah.
So it could not have looked any better from my perspective. The one thing that I can't believe, and listen, this is no disrespect to Luke Gadzik or whatever, but you have this huge, huge tournament. It's just kicked off. The game ends, and I mean, 2 seconds later, they're into Sports Central. And like it's Ken and Ivanka with Luke, and they just basically are like,
yeah, you know what? That's a good point. They could have done a 30-minute post game from right there. 100%. I would agree with you on that. And Gaz is one of our guys. He's on our show like regularly, and I love him. But you're right. I mean, they could have just stayed at the rink and gone back to the panel, gone to the live interviews. It's 30 minutes. I mean, you could have done that. That's a great point.
Yeah. So I mean, considering the scope of this tournament, how much they've invested in it, and so many other things that were so good, I was left wanting way more afterwards. Like, it would have been cool if they had Elliot and Amber doing their thing, or maybe a special guest or two talking about the game, and then taking the coaches and the players live on the show. Like, and the crazy thing is they just let TSN eat their lunch because, while we're sitting here and just, listening to them sort of chop it up, you go over to the others, to TSN, and the insiders are there. O-Dog's breaking it down on the panel, with some guys that really are box office when it comes to actually watching them. So, listen, I thought it was mostly amazing, but I think there's enough appetite for Team Canada for this tournament that they sort of left a bit of an opportunity on the table, not giving us a little bit more after the game.
Well, I wonder if they'll run the same thing on Saturday, or if maybe they have had the same conversations as well. I mean,
if they don't do it on Saturday night, I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe they'll do an after hours or something like that. I don't know, but they should, because this entire country is going to, especially if Canada wins, you could go live for the next 3 hours after the game.
Yeah, 100%.
People will be sticking there and people will be watching.
Yeah. No, you would have people sucked in. The pre-produced intro video right off the top was awesome. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, like with the hip?
It sucked me in, the hip. It's just, I thought at that moment, I was like, even if I wasn't already in for this tournament, I'm 100% in. And then when they rolled out Mario and the place was going bloody nuts, I was just, Wayne's everywhere. You see Wayne all the time, but Mario's like a recluse. Like you very rarely see Mario Lemieux. So when he gets rolled out there in front of a Montreal crowd, it was just like, I was at home. I was like, let's go Mario Lemieux. Like it was all extremely well done. I mean, it was brilliant stuff. Great
thought. Where's Gazzola right now?
He's kicking around here somewhere. Why?
Perfect. Tell him he's working tomorrow night. EST post game after Canada USA.
He's gonna love that.
Maverick just put out the new schedule. Yeah. Tommy, you're on it tomorrow after the game,
and it's 3 hours. It's extended. Because how can we say that we need to have sports that do it when we're not doing one ourselves? Like, it's I'm very excited for the rest of the tournament, buddy. Like I was excited because it was McDavid and Crosby, and I just didn't see any way that those guys wouldn't be balls to the wall when they get a chance to play with each other on Team Canada. But I was still like, let's see where this tournament goes. But it took like 10 minutes. And I was just like, I am as invested in this as I've been in any other international tournament. Yeah.
McDavid to Crosby to McKinnon in the first minute.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking from the broadcast perspective, 10 minutes into into the show where I was like, okay, you've got me. McKinnon had a body check like on the very first play of the hockey game. You're just like, okay, like it wasn't the Tkachuk brothers banging around out there, but Yeah, no, I'm really excited the rest of the way. And we've got an interesting day tomorrow, Huss, because we're doing our EST Fun Spiel. So we have full curling event tomorrow, which starts at like 4:00. So we've got it. Maddie set it up. We're gonna have TVs like out where the sheets are, and we're gonna be able to watch the games as everybody curls. I think we have 16 teams playing in this Bond Spiel that we're calling the EST Fun Spiel tomorrow. So a total Canadian extravaganza tomorrow here for us.
Hey, you could have done that tonight on the off day, but of course, all you Lance romances have big Valentine's plans. We're not going to be able to get out of that.
You Lance romances. I love that.
Hey, I got to shout out my boy Elmo. What is up, Elmo? He said, hey, we need an EST WST hot stove. Listen, we'll probably do something very similar to that between the Lock Shop and our shows next week. Of course, Dusty's going to be on EST doing the Nielson show in the morning. I wouldn't be surprised, depending on our setup, if we hook up there. And then on Winnipeg Sports Talk, I'm sure one of the days I'll be able to get you to hang around after we're done Lock Shop and jump on for a little bit. We're going to see how and where we're going to be able to broadcast from. I'm going to work on that when I get there on Sunday night. But I have a feeling like this place that we're going to be at is awesome. I mean, the Encore connected to the Wynn Casino. Apparently they've got a sports book there. So best case scenario, we'll be able to set up shop right there. It'll look good. And
it's going to be a wicked hot time. You're going to have a lot of fun. I gotta learn other words to say with a Boston accent, because that's the only thing I can do. But we'll see.
We'll see how much the Boston people are liking us, depending on what happens with Canada and USA. Although, as long as we can get it set for a Thursday night final, I mean, we're basically going to have 3 days of shows to talk about the game, to lead up to the game, and do it. But again, for tonight or for tomorrow night, it's already up. And shout out to Jake and Pat, who were on the guys saying, hey, can we get the props up for this Canada USA game in time for the fellas to do the Lock Shop? And of course,
they are
the crew have come through. So hot off the press. Tomorrow's game is a pick'em, as we mentioned. Canada's -108, USA's -109. But starting off with the player points and like all of these games.
That just quickly, that's moved since this morning, because it was Canada -104, USA -112 this morning.
Okay.
So it's moved a little bit. I just noticed that.
I like it being right where it is. Pick them. Pick your side, make your wager, and good luck. And don't forget, as Jake mentioned, the 25% win boost is in effect for tomorrow. So you look at the list of just point props and the order, and this is a pretty, I mean, I got to say, it makes somewhat sense. You got McDavid top of the list at -257, McKinnon at -221. And then next up, it's Matthews and Hughes. And those guys, even though the Tkachuk sort of took over the game, those two guys looked very, very dangerous last night. Austin could have had a couple of them. Oh, good. Yeah. And it's pretty cool. I mean, that's, again, even though they're on the other side and playing for the Yanks, like just teaming up number one overall picks together, much like we've got with Sid and McKinnon, and of course, both being from Cole Harbour. I mean, some of the combinations we've got in this are just so juicy. But you know, it's funny, the Tkachuk boys still kind of pretty nice numbers. I know Matthew's in the chat. His prop is -138. Brady's at -110. And considering Brady's been bumped up to that top line, I mean, that might be the best value on simply a point scorer for
I think it is 100% the best value on a point score. I mean, to me, that's not a number based on the third period against Finland. Right? Like from what we saw in the third period against Finland, I mean, and Matthew probably shouldn't be at -138 either when you look at, Reinhardt and Marner having better odds. I understand the theories there. Those guys are going to be playing with Connor McDavid. I get it. But the period we saw from the Tkachuk brothers was the most dominant period through the first six that we've seen. So that's a really good number for Brady Tkachuk.
I mean, really, like I'm trying to think of when that change happened. I think it was sort of early in the second. And I noticed it just because, of course, it was a swap with Kyle Connor, and we're kind of keeping a particular eye on the Jet guys. And then all of a sudden, Connor was going out with Boldy and JT Miller. And, well, now that I think about it, that goal that they scored in the second was like Kyle Connor got the assist on Boldy's goal. So it was sometime in the second. But the minute the Tkachuk brothers were playing together, that game seemed to really change. But the biggest change was that first minute, of the third period, taking advantage of the power play and then having Gensel score right afterwards. Zach Werenski, 3 points last night. Kind of a quiet 3 points. Obviously one was on that final power play goal. What's Werenski's prop?
-110, same as Tkachuk.
Both of those guys are going to play a lot. Again, I probably am not going to be too invested in Americans just based on principle. But if you are looking at a couple, what about Canada? If we're just talking about point props, we've kind of identified Werenski and Brady Tkachuk as really strong value plays. Josh Morrissey at +105. I don't mind that. He's going to be playing a lot, especially now with and I wouldn't be surprised, Morrissey in the first practices of Canada was on the second power play unit. And then they put Konechny in there when he came into the lineup. Well, he's out. So there could be some value on Morrissey potentially getting power play time as well, in addition to playing. He was third top three in ice time for the game. And then just sort of in that mix in the middle, to be honest, Mark Stone at -112. Playing with Crosby and McKinnon, getting power play time. Yeah. I think Mark Stone, if we're looking for good value as far as what the number is, I think Stone,
with how deep these rosters are, there's value pretty much through the entire board, right? Like it's not like we're picking, Derek Ryan to get a point because he's on the fourth line. It's a lot different in these situations. And actually, I had already looked at this and saw it. I saw Jake just texted us about it. But they've got first period point set up. And I think there's some amazing value here because it's just over it. So for a point in the first period, McDavid's 3-1, McKinnon's +315. Matthews is +325. Hughes is +355. Sidney Crosby is +370 to just come out of the gate with a point in the first period. And I absolutely love those numbers on McDavid and McKinnon. I think there's going to be Huss. Are you expecting like a 5-3, 5-4 game, or are you expecting a bit of a low scoring affair here? I think there's nothing against the goalies, but or the blue lines. I just think there's too much damn talent on the ice for there to not be, 1, 2, or maybe 3 goals in the first period of this hockey game.
I'm with you. And I can tell you that I will be on the over 6.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a Hellebuck guy and would love him to, I want Canada to win, but him to play great and just continue what he's been doing. That being said, easier said than done when you're talking about the firepower that both of these teams are going to be throwing at. And again, I don't think it really matters who's in net for Canada. I don't think that's going to move the number and won't really change the situation at all. I'm actually going to put together, Jake, I think Jake's listening, a WST parlay for tomorrow's Canada game based on just what we've talked about. It's obviously we'll take Canada to win. The Jets, Josh Morrissey to get a point at +105 and Winnipeg's Mark Stone to get a point at -112. So we kind of, I like those two players value-wise to get on the board. We'll put that in with a Canada win and see what we can cook up. So Jake, if you've got that Canada money line, Morrissey and Stone both to get a point, see what number we can get on that. And I don't know whether that's going to go in combo cards or in the exclusives, but let me know and we'll definitely get it to the people coming up on WST today.
All right, so lots to get to on the Four Nations. Obviously, there's a lot of different odds that you can get for this game. And if you're going to be joining us at the Fun Spiel, obviously we'll have the game on so we can watch that. So we got about 10 minutes left. I know you wanted to get into the Scotties a little bit here.
Yeah.
What do you got for us? You are Canada's foremost leader in curling betting.
Here. Well, you know what? I will say this. I don't know whether it is. I haven't seen a ton, but I have followed it. Like this tournament, very simply, is Homan against the field. Rachel Homan's Canada team has really, for the better part of the last 18 months, steamrolled everybody. And she's a minus 250 favorite to win the event. I mean, I'm not usually in the business of betting minus 250 favorites, but it's pretty hard to look anywhere else. I mean, listen, could Carrie Anderson win? Sure, she could. I mean, she really steps up at the Scotties. They've had a lot of turmoil with their team, but she'll be there. Like, I think maybe the Carrie bet would be top 2 at plus 115 to get back to the final. You want to be a little more conservative, top 3 at minus 154. What's going to be interesting is, who rounds that out, that top 3 team, because it's pretty heavily favored for Canada and the Anderson rink. And then you've got Caitlin Laws, and Laws played very well. I mean, very experienced. She could absolutely, give those other teams a run and maybe even make it to the final against Homan. And that's why she's the next bet at plus 165. Got to tell you, though, McCarville from Northern Ontario, and this event is in Thunder Bay. This is a home game for her. She's had great performances in the last couple Scotties Tournament of Hearts. Will be the sentimental favorite there, I think. And at plus 115 for top 4, or even plus 185 for top 3, I think there's some value there as well. So, like, for the futures, as I said, it's very hard for me to sit here and tell you that Rachel Homan's not going to win this event. But that's why I think it's more fun to sort of, when we get into the round robin play beforehand, kind of, looking at teams that you think can have solid weeks and be there next weekend in the playoffs. And as I said, I expect that top 4 probably to be where it is. The one rink that if you wanted to take a little bit of a flyer on is the Alberta rink, Skrillex. I was just looking this up before the game. I think they've played more than any team so far this year. Where are we here? Yeah, Kayla Skrillex. They're from Calgary. A 51-20 win this year, and a third-ranked team. They have, as I mentioned, they've played 71 games, which is the most in the field. A younger team, but it's got that group now to rank 3rd in the nation. Now, again, experience-wise, Caitlin Laws, Carrie Anderson are going to have that honor. But when you look at the odds, I mean, sure, they're 20-1 to win, but plus 550 for top 2. I think you got to look at that top 3, top 4 number for that Alberta rink, and a top 4 at plus 160. I think is very much on the table, and potentially even plus 275 as the 3rd-ranked team. So for you Alberta folks, you can definitely take a look at that. Another great bet, if you just want to, speaking of that team, would be Skrillex to qualify from pool play at minus 152. So that doesn't necessarily take into account next weekend, but to advance from that pool. And the odds for that, I mean, Canada's minus 5,000, put her in the playoffs already. Carrie Anderson minus 667. And then you've got Laws at 250, Nova Scotia minus 208, McCarville, the Thunder Bay team, at minus 200, and then Skrillex at minus 152. And then those other ones, Sturmey, another Alberta team, Kate Cameron's Manitoba rink, they're minus 115, minus 110, BC's plus 110. But I think that minus 152 on Skrillex is probably money well spent. I expect her to be playing in the postseason or in the playoffs and getting out of that rink. So we'll probably jump on that as far as to qualify from pool play. It's all there right now. I mean, you can bet Homan's minus 380.
Let me ask you this, Huss, because Big Uke in the chat says, what about this? Because with the way you laid it out, I think this might make really good sense. Homan to defeat Einarson in the final plus 250.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Do you like that number?
Well, for sure, because I mean, again, it's Homan is minus 250 to win.
Yeah.
The chances are they're going to be there. They'll have Rock. They'll be in that final, and then we're basically looking at, put it this way. I really do like that because if you want Carey to say be top 2, it's plus 115. Now, even with her incredible record as the Queen of Hearts, I mean, 4 in a row. The Homan rink is just on another level right now. They will be a huge favorite against anybody. And to get there, in all likelihood, they'll be losing. So yeah, plus 250 as opposed to a plus 115 where they could win the match probably makes sense. If anything, you could put the plus 250 on Homan to beat Einarson in the final and then add a little sprinkle on Carey at plus 380 if you think that they might win the whole thing. I think that definitely does you better than just putting in a plus 115 top 2 on Einarson.
All right, 780-218-9999 is where you can chime in. I know Big Uke was also asking over in the chat. No slam dunk champion picks, and I think the problem there is that Mac McClung is going for a three-peat, and this is going to be his final one apparently. They've never had a three-peat. I think he's going to bring something special to the table to get it done. He's a heavy favorite, minus 250. Castle's plus 375. Buzelis is plus 450. Andre Jackson Jr. is 5-1. I just don't see how Mac McClung doesn't step it up even another level for his final dunk contest and bring home the first ever NBA dunk contest three-peat. I mean, he dunks. That's what he does. That's his thing.
Is he even in the league?
Not in the NBA. I think he's played one. Has he dressed for one game this year? One game this year. So, yeah. I mean, he's here because he dunks. He's been in it the last 2 years. He's won it both times. He's running it back. It's insanely chalky. But, I mean, maybe, you know what, Uke, what you do here? You take Mac McClung, you parlay him with Homan, and you turn it into a positive number. There you go. That's what you do. The old classic Scotties / NBA dunk champion parlay.
I'm just looking at this run right now for tonight's first draw. Some kind of interesting numbers right now when it comes to this. So New Brunswick is playing against Skrillex. This New Brunswick team looks pretty young, but they're 20-5 right now. They were 2-6 last year. They did well, but they've just been playing on the East Coast. So I think that's why you've got the Skrillex team is 3.5 point favorites, I guess, and still at minus 133. And I'll probably jump on that. Sturmey on the money line. And then you know what? This number, I think I'm going to take Sask plus 3.5. Now, again, they're a pretty mid team, like 23 and 22 for the year. And we know, like, I expect McCarville to win Northern Ontario, but again, 3.5 is a big, big number. So we can get Saskatchewan at plus 3.5. So I think that's what I'm going to play for a parlay tonight. Sturmey to win, Skrillex minus 3.5 against New Brunswick, and Sask plus 3.5 against Northern Ontario, plus 379 in addition to those futures that we just chopped up.
What is coming up on WST, buddy?
Well, we're going to head out to Montreal. Our buddy John Mattis is going to join us from the site of tomorrow's Canada-USA game. We'll talk about the tournament. Weber's going to join us from Mexico. And unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about the Super Bowl one more time this week as Hacksaw comes back to wrap the season.
Well, yeah, you must be watching all of the Eagles parade stuff from today, right? I didn't want to bring it up earlier in the show, but
it did. It did come across my feed very quickly. I just had to go radio silent for like 48 hours after it. All the things that I normally consume, shows, podcasts. I basically was just looking for things like WWE pod, like that wouldn't be talking about football and the Super Bowl right now. But this is a fun week. Scotty's starting tonight, and then tomorrow the main event. Are you on Sweden tomorrow in the early game?
Yeah. I don't think Sweden's far off Canada and the U.S. So I think they'll take care of business against Finland. I know it's a big rivalry thing. I've had as a Koivu fan, I've had my heart broken for him via Sweden a number of times. I'll be pretty surprised if Sweden doesn't get it done against Finland tomorrow, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'd be on Sweden for sure. And hey, I'll see you in Boston, buddy, on Monday.
Yes, you will.
Safe
Monday
travels.
Morning. I'll get there on Sunday, and see what our broadcast options are. And by the way, I'll be talking about this on Winnipeg Sports Talk, but the WST parlay is up for tomorrow's game. Canada to win, Stone and Morrissey each to get a point, 4-1 plus 400 in the exclusive. So I'm going to get on that, and feel free to ride with me if you like.
Beautiful. That's going to do it for the Lock Shop today. We've got the oil stream coming up, and if you need any Valentine's Day help, Tommy Gazzola's the guy to help you out. So we'll get to that coming up at noon. WST starting up as well. For us, I'm Dusty. Thank you very much for joining us. Best of luck this weekend, and we will talk to you from Boston on Tuesday.